Addiction to opioids, including painkillers and heroin, takes nearly 27,000 American lives each year. Lawmakers, doctors, and law enforcement are all trying to find a way to curb the cycle of addiction, and there are no easy answers. Hello, everyone. I'm David Oliver.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Jennifer Keelman. Over the next 2 hours, Color 10 will present the stories of this quiet epidemic here at home. It's another courageous conversation that is long overdue. Tonight, you'll hear from the addicts and their families who say they never expected to be living this kind of life or burying their loved ones. We'll discuss local treatment options, local community efforts, what laws need to be changed, and explore options for those living with chronic pain.
For some perspective, take a look at this trend. In 2014, Springfield police took 26 grams of heroin off the streets. The next year, the amount rose to 397 grams, and that's just what officers were able to seize. As heroin continues to impact thousands of families, we take a look at how it's making its way to the Ozarks. Here's our Brett Martin on the major drug pipeline that runs through the Ozarks.
Maybe behind the scenes, but there are people like me using all over the place.
For as long as Robert Carter can remember,
1988 or 9.
he's been an addict.
It started prescription pain medicine, honestly. So I had a gunshot wound. I didn't realize it then, but I picked up a lifetime habit.
Carter moved to the Ozarks from the Mississippi Delta years ago.
The average person just might be surprised to learn that things like that happen all the time. And in some of the best neighborhoods, some of the nicest places in town.
That's when his addiction peaked.
2008, I was using really heavy IV.
And in the Ozarks, Carter says the supply is there to meet the demand, unfortunately.
It's just as easy as it was in New Orleans. I mean, honestly, just as easy.
Over the last 5 years, the amount of heroin taken off Springfield streets has increased by nearly 3,000%.
We're seeing just a big influx of heroin. At the same time, we're seeing a decline, in our crack cocaine usage, but it's being replaced with heroin usage.
In 2011, 13 grams of heroin were confiscated. In 2015, 397 grams were seized.
Most of the trade, though, seems to be, Springfield specific. They're coming here, on purpose and staying selling.
While law enforcement agencies in southwest Missouri try to stay on top of the heroin trade in the area, Springfield police say our location along Interstate 44 doesn't play in our favor.
Through their investigations, narcotic detectives say dealers have a straight shot to a high-demand market in Springfield.
Examples like St. Louis, Kansas City, Tulsa, Little Rock, just larger cities to smaller cities, how it typically goes, and that's what we see here too.
SPD investigators believe they have a good idea of who's bringing heroin into the Queen City.
We have a pretty good picture, I think, of who's bringing it in, who's selling it.
Carter says as a user, it's not about where it's coming from, it's about who you know.
So that's who I was hanging out with. So it didn't start with me being there involved with this huge circle of users, but it wound up like that.
Earlier this year, Springfield police found 6.5 pounds, or almost 3,000 grams of heroin in a home.
Heroin is here, and we all probably just need to acknowledge that and move towards slowing that progression.
But that doesn't compare to the state level. Troopers took 4,192 grams off Missouri highways in 2015, compared to 156 grams in 2011.
A typical user amount may be 1/8 of a gram, so if you get 4 grams off of a dealer, you have to put that, how much is that worth to the amount of grams he was going to sell out.
On the medical side, first responders say the trends in overdoses can let them know when a new shipment or more pure type of heroin has hit the streets in the Ozarks.
Over the past year, the increase in overdoses can be linked to the type of heroin on the streets.
Seems like when there's a certain supply coming in, our rate of calls would go up.
Paramedics say the trend shows just how dangerous heroin can be.
It almost seemed like some of this heroin that was coming in was more potent than what people were used to.
Springfield police say there's not just one type of heroin right here in the Ozarks.
Most of what we're seeing is just powder for heroin. We have seen some black tar heroin, but a lot of it is just like I would call powdered heroin.
Dealers are cutting their supply to make a bigger profit, but possibly a more deadly combination.
You're strictly relying on your dealer to tell you what's in there, and they're not going to tell you how many times that's been cut.
Carter says heroin in the Ozarks took his life physically.
I had an overdose 2007, and I have renal insufficiency.
Financially.
I was actually homeless for 2 years in Springfield here.
And emotionally.
It'd like to cost me my life, honestly.
But he isn't giving up on his fight.
I'm not going to come in and say, hey, I'm done with this. It doesn't work like that. I've thought that I could a couple of times, and it didn't work like that. So